Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, folks, you guys know my habit is to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things. Very expensive time. What a precious commodity. And I have Gloria who's willing to come and spend some of it with us, man. And I want to honor her for coming and spending this precious stuff. And I always try to educate my listeners and those hearers. Learn to value time. Understand who she is and the power that she is. And once you learn to understand her, your life will change. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It has created Gloria, and it has deposited a couple of things in her that we want access to. What are those things? Wisdom, knowledge, insights, foresights, all those kind of sights that we want to dance in. We want to extract it. We want to get a glimpse of what it is and what it did to her. And so we are honored that she's here to give us the opportunity to be partakers of it. And so we want to thank her and give her the space that she can be as she is here to share with us to make us better human spirits while we are here on this planet. Gloria, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Ken, thank you so much. Thank you. You have a beautiful energy. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. One of the first questions that I pose to our guests is a powerful one, I think. And that is, I mentioned to you that we have two journeys, the independent journey and the interdependent journey. And that question is based on the interdependent journey. How do you serve mankind?
I believe I am here. This is what I feel inside of me. I feel that I'm here to contribute to take people home to themselves, to help people come home to themselves. I believe that when we experience this life from a place of home, truly being home with our soul, getting rid of all the programs or all of the outside programs and truly be home within our souls. I believe that we experience the world and we create the world in a very different way, and in a way that creates harmony, in a way that creates balance, in a way that is respectful towards one another, towards creatures, all creatures on the planet. I believe that it creates openness. And I have this vision of this new earth that I believe we're moving into. And it's just so beautiful. Beautiful. And I really want us to experience that. I really want us to experience that. So the way that I serve is doing behind every single thing that I do, whatever it is that I'm doing with my work, every single thing, all of the different things that compose what I do. That's the purpose. The intention is to help people come home to themselves. Yes.
I believe that is the ultimate prize, if you will, is to come home. As I mentioned to you, that we have lost sight of who we are. We have lost memory as to who we are when we enter into this body of ours. We are programmed by those that lack the insight and the knowledge as to who we truly are. And the journey is designed to unpack all of that. And as we embark on these, what we, for lack of a better word, call the journey is just, as you said, to become familiar with who we truly are and to go back home. And back home is just to become familiar with the reality of who we truly are. And that is one of the saddest thing, as you see, as we learn who we truly are, the color of our skin does not matter, does it? And so that war against the color of one man's skin would not be important when we understand who we truly are. When we come back home, we will realize, no, wait a minute, that's not important. And so the work that we have to do is very important in the sense that we are bringing men to the place to understand, coming back home as to who they are and what they truly are. So one of our customs here, Gloria, is to go back, as I mentioned to you, in our journey on this planet, we visit these spaces. I call them spaces. And each one of these spaces we visit is temporary as we are moving through each and every one of them, as we are moving through going towards independence, as they call it. And the very first space that you and I reside after the hospital, in most cases, is this unit that we have called mom and dad. Mom and dad are basically strangers that we have chosen to come through to enter into this planet. And we are here amongst strangers. What is your family unit like?
The one I come from,
Yeah.
assuming you mean. Yes, the one I come from. You know, the more I travel through this journey that you've been talking about, the more sure I am that I have definitely chosen my parents.
Yeah.
100%. I really, really do. You know, I come from a small village in the beautiful country of Italy, actually. And that's not where I live now, but I come from there. My dad, he grew up with no guidance, no parental guidance. So he grew up very free, very impulsive, very independent, and a little bit rough on the edges. You know, and they didn't have much in his family, and same for my mom as well. They experienced poverty, quite a lot of poverty, but my mom had more of a family unit growing up. So her background was very poor, didn't have much. She was bullied a lot when she was growing up, so she experienced a lot of hardship that way. And she
Yeah.
grew up in an environment where there was a brother and a sister, and everything was allowed to the brother, and nothing was allowed to the sister. So,
Wow.
so she was obviously the sister, and so she had a lot of hardship in that way. And then my parents decided to, in the mid '80s, they got
Yeah.
together, and that's when I was born. And they did not stay together very long. They really didn't stay together very long. They got back. Sorry, they separated. I think I must have been 2 years old, probably. So I grew up distant from my dad, even though he would come visit, but he was not a presence in my life. I grew up with my grandparents. They're a biggest present in my life. My grandparents, my uncle, and then my mom. And so yeah, there was a lot of love, but there was a lot of hurt. And I think that hurt people. And
Yes.
so I had a lot of that growing up. I now understand a lot of it, and I am not angry at my parents anymore. I understand their dynamics. I understand the narcissistic traits. Like I really understand, and I love them both very, very deeply. But there was a lot of unpacking to do. A lot of
I
unpacking.
think when we are in it, the trauma, of course, no one understands the purpose of the trauma. But the trauma is the piece that gives birth to us. It is the piece that will cause you and I to be able to, because of that second journey, that interdependent journey, we will be able to reach back and assist folks that were in a similar situation that we were in. And so on the onset, it doesn't make sense. But later on in life, as we've gone through and we have come through on the other side, if you will, it makes sense. We can see, okay, mom and dad did the best they could with the knowledge. But for me, it has formed me. And I, as a result, I am capable and willing because I went through and paid the price, because there is a price to be paid for that walking through the journey. I am now able to be a part of that in the interdependent partnership to help assist others through that pain. But initially, Gloria, we come out angry, bitter, you name all the stuff that
Yeah,
we're willing to kill them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not we don't have any love for them at all, because I was part of that, and it takes years and the rest of our life to unpack what took place as a a young individual, So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always found true, I've always been a very sensitive child. And I was told off for being sensitive. It was sold to me that being sensitive was horrible and I was drama and all this sort of stuff. But in my own internal experience, I've never disconnected from that sensitivity. Just, I never knew how. I really never knew how. It was just my making. But one thing that has always been very prominent in that inner journey for me, since I can remember, really, like very, very little, I always felt like I was older than my parents. I felt older than my parents. And I could see, even at a young age, I could see how there was more, I don't want to say wisdom necessarily, but how I could see the world and experience things in a different way. And I was constantly told, oh, you're too little, you don't understand because you're young, you don't understand because of this, you don't understand. And the more I tried to express this, no, but look, I feel like this could be this, and the more I was like suppressed. And again, that had to be part of my journey, I suppose. I had to experience that, because then it took, over the years, once that was kind of like suppressed quite a bit, it took quite a lot of dismantling and undoing and unbecoming to be able to bring that back, But it was very interesting. I wonder if you've ever felt like that as well, like you felt like you were at a soul level, maybe older than your parents or some of the people that you have around.
I think there's a lot of people that feel that way, and because of the programmers, when they look at us, they deem us as not capable of having that knowledge, and they are suppressing that knowledge and that feeling, that intuition. And because a child in their mind and in the program shouldn't be feeling that, shouldn't be in their program. And so because of their program, so they will say to you, no, you shouldn't be. And so the suppression begins at that age. And so we have to kind of, it puts us in the back. We have to stuff it in the background in order to survive. And so it places us in a survival mode for years. And then it takes years later for that part of us to be able to be considered valid again, because we distrust it to a degree, because we have been told that it is not valid. And we have to go through that process of allowing that validation to be taking place all over again. Yeah, I went through that. It's a tough walk, to
Very
gain that
interesting.
back again. Yeah.
Very
It's
interesting
interesting.
indeed.
There are parts of me that I remember people saying certain things, and it troubled me and tough. And I tell people, personal development is not for weak people. It is one of the most courageous endeavor you will ever have to do in your life, because it's not about the people. It is about you. It is about those places that you have to go and push and excavate, that is against everything that is about your feelings and fears and everything. It's not about the other people. It's about you. And so when you begin to face you and face your fears and so forth, it becomes a battle, and it's one of the hardest things you'll have to do. So here you are, Gloria, being in that cauldron of emotions with the family and all of these things happening to you, the suppression and different things. What was your relationship with others outside of the family? We know how you were with the grandparents and stuff like that. How was your relationship with people now that were in your sphere and so forth?
I had a very close group of friends at different ages. I always had like not more than like 3 or 4 like really close friends, because the relationship with people was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. I struggled letting people in, and I had to really, really, I mean, even now, like I have to really, really trust someone for them to be an active part of my life, because the outside people. I was bullied a lot. I was mistreated a lot. I had experiences in childhood that were very violating by other people. And it was very uncomfortable. It was very, very
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I felt judged and misunderstood a lot. I was called names. It was not kind. It was not one of the kindest experiences. So I've kept my outer world very small with just a few friends because it was not kind. It was not
Yeah.
kind.
It's amazing the approach, the wisdom, if you will, that young individual shows and does in order to survive. As in your case, the limitation of friends, how many is you allow in your space, all of these different things for the first phase of our life when we are walking in this cauldron of mess is basically that of survival and moving through from one phase to another as we're
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to, and most of it we're hiding, we're withdrawing and surviving to come out, if you will. And in our mind, we're thinking of getting to a place where I can handle my own stuff, get away from these people or
Yeah.
whatever we do. But it's just a survival mechanism to get away from everyone. And we try to control it to the best of our ability. But it is tremendous amount of wisdom. I look at it that this young individual is expressing to survive and to live. It's amazing what we do
Yeah,
in
it
our
really
life.
is. And actually, now you're making me think about early teenage years. I can really see back at that time how I have made the subconscious decision that you make,
Yes.
that something is going to happen. I really made the subconscious decision there that I was going to just be whatever they wanted me to be in order for me to be
Hmm.
accepted, because
Yeah.
it became so painful that I just, it was just not sustainable. And so for then, until, from my early teenage years until I would say my very late 20s, 29, even maybe that,
Hmm.
that's how I operated. That
Yeah.
survival, that mask to, always smile, everything is okay, whatever it is that they want, because I don't want to face that pain. And it's not that, if you look back, then it's absurd because you're in pain anyway, aren't you?
Yes.
When you
Yes.
have that
So
mask, right?
yeah.
You're still in
Yeah.
pain. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just how we how we deal with it. One of the things that I've learned in my life from looking back as we're having this conversation, Gloria, and I tell people there's the subconscious mind and you have the mind of the flesh. There's certain places and certain parts of us that are making decisions, the mind of the flesh, and then there's the subconscious mind. And I usually pull out a situation in the Bible because I was in churches. There's this story about the woman with the issue of blood. It says that she was rich, she spent money, and she was dying. And it says she heard that this guy Jesus was healing people. And it says that she said within herself, and that is her soul. She said within herself. That is the soul of the woman said, if I could touch his hem of the garment, I will get what I want. And I tell people when that individual makes a decision, the plan will be implemented to go and make it happen. And that plan will be implemented and it will govern our lives sometimes for years underneath. And like you did as a young individual,
Yeah.
it will govern our life. And then there's the decision of the mind of the flesh. And I told them that's more immediate, it's
Yeah.
satisfied, it's right away, and that type of stuff. But when that subconscious mind, that soul makes that decision, and I said, that's the one you got to be very careful when that one says something,
Yeah.
you better believe it'll happen. But it's a more long lasting decision, and to be very mindful which part of you is deciding something and be aware of it. Because if once you're aware of it, be purposeful in what you're doing because it will manifest however it is, and
Absolutely.
whether it's good or bad. So be mindful of that. And as you stated, it was that inner woman, that inner girl that said this, and because it lasted until you were 30 something years old,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you have to make the change at that time. And at that time, the unpacking starts because it becomes an interesting journey. You begin to unpack what you have just planted in your soul several years ago. So be very
Yes.
mindful, folks. So here you are, Gloria. You deposited that beautiful seed into this young woman's soul, and she made a decision to live this way. You're in your 30s now.
Yeah.
It's time to unpack all of that.
It is.
As that day, your time is coming, the ripening of your life and your journey is always the bolero effect. I tell people it's never one thing, that bolero, that it just builds up to that crescendo in the last scene of that song, and then all hell breaks loose, and the noise is incredible. As you are beginning to come to that crescendo in your life and you're beginning to walk into your spiritual journey, what was the leading up to the symbols, if you will, in your life that caused you to begin to embark on that spiritual journey?
Yeah. It really became physically unsustainable. It really became physically unsustainable. So I was in a very toxic relationship for 15 years.
Mhm.
So since the age of 18, um, and to the age of 31 or 32. At my when I turned 30, 31, I was really at a very low point. I had anxiety, generalized anxiety. I also struggled with OCD a lot. OCD, for if you're not familiar, for anyone who's listening who's not familiar, is obsessive compulsive disorder. So essentially your mind is telling you that you have to perform certain things in a certain way, almost like in a way that it almost becomes a ritual in your life, right? Otherwise, your mind is making you believe that something bad will happen if you don't do it in a certain way, right? So and it can affect like different things in life. For me, it was about like checking the doors in a certain way, closing the windows in a certain way, doing things during my day in a certain order. And that had completely taken over my life. I had about over 40 compulsions every day,
Wow.
and there was a lot of anxiety. Like I was barely, it would take me about 40 minutes. I was ready to leave the house in the morning, ready and ready to go to work, and it would take me 30 to 40 minutes before I could actually leave the house, because I had to put all things into place in order for me to be able to believe that I was going to be okay leaving the house. It was
Wow.
it was really, 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 really bad at the time. And I just couldn't do it anymore. It was like that every day. I had different compulsions. Sorry, like that every morning. I have different compulsions during the day, and then before bed as well. It was just a constant state of anxiety. And so that's why it was becoming really, really unsustainable. And I started to really see how it was not the life that I wanted to live. That's not what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
And so I started to see a coach to help me with that. And one by one, we got rid of all of the compulsions. And now I haven't had OCD for years and years. So
What
it
tools,
was a
Gloria, did you bring in? What tools did you bring in to your life to assist you to eventually walk away from those compulsions?
Yeah. So she was using traditional coaching, and also cognitive behavioral therapy
Yeah.
for me to be able to change the compulsions. And then after that, we continued with the coaching, which was coaching specialized, life coaching specialized for anxiety.
Yeah.
So we continue with that. And I saw her for about 3 years in total.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I made the decision that, after that, by the time I finished working with her, I had filed for divorce, so left
Yeah.
the toxic relationship, went to live on my own, completely lost a lot of weight because I was really overweight as well when I was experiencing all of that anxiety and everything. So my life completely changed. And then when I finally sort of found like I was closer to home, to myself,
Yeah.
not there yet, but I was getting closer to that. I saw that I didn't want to do the job that I was doing anymore. You know, I worked in events, corporate events and hospitality for a long time. I was events director, and I was like, this is coming easy to me, but it's not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, you know?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden I had space. Because with no more OCD and no more anxiety, my goodness, my soul was just like, look at this space. We can experience, we can think, we can breathe a little bit more. So, like, all of a sudden, it was just a completely different life experience. And so I decided to train myself to train as a coach. Because I
Yes.
thought, oh, if this is me, I'm experiencing such a change. And I had people coming up to me, colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
friends, being like, oh my God, you know, you're inspiring me with your journey, you know, this sort of stuff. And I thought, oh, I can bring this to the next level and I can help more people if I know what I'm doing, right? So if I train, I can help more women coming out of toxic relationships and all that. And so that's what I did. And then after that, I had a beautiful spiritual awakening. Well, I had the spiritual awakening before, then I trained. And then after I trained, I had the landing of the spiritual awakening that I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
a couple of years before. And I thought, oh, wait, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I retrained again and
Yeah.
I've been doing what I do now. So yeah.
Yeah. I tell people it's your assignment.
Yeah.
Once we do that, because again, the program is we have to find a job. And that's the language, the terminology that you go to school and then you find your job or your profession. But I go beyond that, and again, I pull from the story in the Bible because I think that illustration is perfect of Jesus walking and you have these fishermen, their profession. These guys are Peter, he's fishing. And Jesus is walking and he looks at these fishermen and he says, hey guys, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And now I think about that because hey, these guys have been fishing for a while and they must have come and they figured out, wait a minute, I may have met my salary, my ceiling with my salary. I can't get
Yeah.
any more promotion than this. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go anywhere or whatever. But they were ready, Gloria. They were ready because they walked away from it. They looked at it and said, no,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And it took them years later, and those guys became fishers of men. They had to learn and they go through. And so they found their assignment so much so that they died in some horrible ways to, because they found it. And so I told people, because most of us identify, we feel that our identity is in the job. So when we lose our job, we get depressed. We're going to some people commit suicide, all kinds of crazy stuff when they lose their job because they feel that that's their identity, but they miss it because they don't know that their identity is in their assignment and their assignment is constantly changing. And when their assignment is constantly changing, you never get depressed. You're always in a state of gratitude because you're
Yeah.
just great. So you'll never be depressed. But the entire world is chasing that job and it's bound to the depression and it keeps them as a servant and in slavery, sorry. And when you find your assignment, it makes you a servant. There's a big difference. And so here you are,
Absolutely.
you located your assignment, you began to study to show yourself approved, as the scripture says, study to show yourself approved. And as you began to study and you began to understand the principles and you began to work in your assignment, talk to me about the initial states of that as you're now dealing with it because you are leaving your job
Yeah.
and you're switching. And that transition is not comfortable sometimes. You
It's
gotta
not
walk away from
comfortable.
it.
No,
Talk to me about
it was
that.
exciting. It was exciting though. It was exciting,
Yeah.
not comfortable because I had to let go of a lot of beliefs and I had
Mm-hmm.
to let go of a part of me that I've always known for such a long time, you know? I think we experience death in
Yes.
life many times,
Yes.
right? We don't I'm a medium. I,
Mm-hmm.
communicate and connect with the other side on the daily. So my understanding of what happens when we die is that death is not the end, right? Death is not the end. It's just something that we become. We the body ceases to
It's a
exist, and we
transition.
just go back. Exactly, we go back to a form of energy. But even in this human body experience, we die so many times
All the
in the
time.
course of a lifetime, right? So
Yeah.
many times. And so what I experienced in that, in that period of time that you asked me about, going from the job to the assignment, I definitely died.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely 100% died. And then I lived as that initial understanding of my assignment for a little while
Mm-hmm.
until it dawned on me that my assignment was something else. The first, the coaching thing that I did was just a stepping stone to get me out so that I then could die again.
Yes.
Die again, and then eventually get to what the real assignment is, and it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's really uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable period. It's confusing. You sure find out who the right people in your life are. You sure find that out. You really find out who truly believes in you. Not that it's important, because the most important thing is that you believe in you, but you really find out who your supporters are. You really find out who's rooting for you genuinely, really genuinely rooting for you. But I think the most amazing experience is the death of it all. Is literally being like, wow, I thought I was something, and look at this. I never thought this would happen. So I think like it's just the marvel of it all. It really is, like,
Yeah.
how amazing it is that you think of yourself as something for such a long time in your life, and then you get to be born again, to die and be born again, and just really find your home. It's just the most, it's not easy, but it's the most amazing thing. It really is.
Yeah. I love how you explain that it's a death, and people need to see that. There's so many businesses that were given birth out of death when someone lost their jobs. So many authors were born from death when they lost their jobs. So many. And so because of the programs, there are people, I was talking to someone as COVID came, because so many people were complacent and stagnant, and there were so many abortions that would have taken place had not COVID came. Abortion meaning all those businesses that were going to be aborted, those things that needed to be brought forth, and shifting of there are many things spiritually that needed to be taken care of here, and shifting dimension in and taking the human race to a different path that needed to be taken care of because of COVID. And I tell people the collective called COVID in, and it showed up. And it showed up because we called it. Everyone was complaining how they were tired and whatever, and it showed up. However, the form showed up. But we as a collective called things in when it comes into that degree. And we make the changes and we deal with it as a collective. But it gave birth to many things that needed to be changed. And many of the systems are the seed, that little crack within the educational systems has been planted. I've interviewed people that have been able to sneak in meditation of all things within the educational system for children. of all things. And where now kids are able to, they are allowing kids, which is unheard of, to meditate and allow different things. So systems are being changed as a result of COVID. And so we're going to see some different things happening and manifesting within the next couple of years. So here you are. You have experienced death and you're moving. You thought that one thing was another and you were shifted into another. You have located your assignment and you are now planted. It is 20, and I know that you, being a medium and an empath, sensing all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Oh, man. Talk to us as to some of those internal things that one that is sensitive and has been sensitive from since a young child, where they have been suppressing and now you are not suppressed. You are in a space by which you are required to speak. What is it that you are sensing and feeling, the movements, the undercurrents, if you will, that is now being a part of this new era that we are in and moving into?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I hope you can edit this out, but I have to point out that I really have an appointment in 5 minutes. So
No, that's okay.
I just
Yeah.
needed to let you know. Sorry about that. But what I'm currently sensing is change. I really sense change. I really feel that we are at a time in the world where there's so many children being born that are not being suppressed, that are being given the opportunity to feel and to sense. And I really think that we should trust them because they all come already aware of their multidimensionality. A lot of children. And as parents, if you are a parent and if your child is speaking up about sensing certain things or seeing certain things or, feeling certain things, please, please, please allow them to express it. Please give them the benefit of the doubt. And even if it's something that you can't understand, ask someone, someone who is maybe a psychic or an intuitive or, that works in this industry, because these are the people that are going to bring the change. This is when I talk about coming home as a collective. When I talk about the new earth, these are the people that are going to be the foundation of that, So that's what I'm sensing. I am sensing a lot of children being born with their own awareness of their multidimensionality and their spirit. And I think that we should be doing everything that we can so that they can express themselves as much as possible, I'm sensing big changes and I have a lot of hope and I can see a lot of positive things coming into the world. I really can. I see openness. I really see openness.
That's awesome. Gloria, again, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. And we will provide all your links for everyone to reach you and get to you. And
Thank you.
So that they can be a part of your vision, if you will, and learn who they are so that they can go home. And I thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I really appreciate it. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.